Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories this hour. Atiku Peter Obi denied joint ticket talks ahead of 2027 presidential elections. And at least 54 bodies recovered after boat accident involving 200 traders in Kogi State. Namibian opposition leader accuses the electoral process of being marred by chaos and alleged foul play. Details coming up shortly. Now let's begin by telling you that the camps of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi have dismissed rumours of discussions for a joint ticket ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Speculation erupted on social media after photos surfaced of Atiku hosting Obi for breakfast at his residence in Adamawa State. Atiku later shared a video of the meeting on his official X account, captioned, "It is breakfast time with my friend Peter Obi in the land of beauty." The footage showed both leaders seated at the dining table, accompanied by others ready to share a meal. This meeting comes months after the deputy national spokesman of the PDP, Ibrahim Abdullahi, hinted on a live political program that opposition leaders were exploring a potential merger to rescue the nation from collapse. However, both camps have affirmed, denied any formal talks about a joint ticket. And still in politics, the influence of Lagos leadership on Nigerian politics cannot be overstated. As the economic hub of the country, Lagos State plays a significant role in shaping national policies and agendas. The next governor of Lagos State will not only determine the direction of the state, but also have a profound impact on the country's political landscape. News Central's Igbalani Yamoni samples opinion of residents as names begin to emerge in contest for Lagos' #1 seat.
Lagos State plays a pivotal role in Nigeria's overall political landscape. As the economic hub of the country, Lagos State is a crucial contributor to Nigeria's GDP, accounting for approximately 26.7% of the country's total GDP and over 50% of non-oil GDP. The state's political landscape has a ripple effect on the country's economy, with major industries, financial institutions, and trade activities concentrated in Lagos. Consequently, there is intense interest in its leadership.
This is the Lagos State Assembly, and the man at the helm of affairs here, the Speaker of the Assembly, Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, has been touted to be one of the successors that will take over from Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Another interesting candidate is someone dubbed the Silent General in the presidency's circle, the president's son, Seyi Tinubu.
The conversation surrounding the 2027 Lagos State governorship election is already generating reactions. Is it not, however, too early for these discussions?
It's too early to talk about 2027 election. It's too early. Let Nigeria discuss much important thing now than 2027 election. Because what is holding Nigeria now, all of us, we are hungry. Even if they self will know who will be governor in 2027. Forget this, they are just doing this cause Sakama Jam.
There's no time that is not right for anything that has to do with how you network yourself to a political position. You know, it depends on the people, on the person who is in charge, because there's a lot of groundwork you need to do, even though it's not in a public space. They play politics on daily basis. You know, they network on daily basis. You understand? So it is when it becomes a timetable. That's when we know, okay, this is a political era.
Public opinion is also divided on the suitability of these proposed candidates as Lagos governor.
My reservation is that will he be bold enough as a governor of Lagos State to distance himself from his father's influence and cronies and political associates and be totally independent to liberalize Lagos. That's what Lagos State needs.
During Fachola regime, Tinubu was Lagos State governor. When Ambode was Lagos State governor, Tinubu was Lagos State governor. As Sanwo-Olu has come in as Lagos State governor, Tinubu is the one in charge. I don't know. Lagos State is not his father's compound or kitchen.
Tinubu should go and rest. Yeah, when you mention Obasa, is a man that doesn't consider the foreigners. He has hatred for foreigners. I don't want to mention tribe. Irobo, Efik, Hausa, everybody are here. I don't want to mention tribe.
Names that are coming up to govern Lagos, they are all qualified in terms of eligibility. But the question is, if we get it right as a people where election results count, will they win?
While Sheyi Tinubu has yet to comment on these despite endorsement by some groups, the Speaker, Mudashiru Obasa, seized the opportunity of the 2025 Lagos budget presentation to address the matter.
Let me state it on the before people here. Our intention is to promote our party on the platform of mandate. Also, becoming governor is secondary. It is something that I have not given a serious consideration. Nevertheless, that does not mean I am too young or lack experience to run. I do not need local validity to contest or run. If I officially am contesting, I will do so from Agege.
Some youth groups and opposition parties have also begun to react to these developments, while other Lagosians believe that attention should be more focused on electoral process.
If things are working, I don't think attention will be shifted to 2027. That is like 2-3 years ahead. For me, that discretionary power given to INEC by Electoral Act is a misplaced one. We need to amend the Electoral Act to say INEC must transmit election result electronically, else that result should be null and void. And to get to that level, we are not ready, we are not yet serious as a people. Because we must reduce the level of human interference with the process. We are saying that, yes, this is our country, this is the problem that's confronting us, and we are saying that INEC is not responsible enough to parade such discretionary power. For me, they should be stripped of that discretionary power.
Despite the next election being 3 years away, residents acknowledge that the battle for Lagos will be intense and the outcome will have far-reaching consequences for the state and the country. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Igbalani Omani.
Business experts in the Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have called on youths to embrace entrepreneurship as an alternative to unemployment. Speaking in an entrepreneurship summit themed Cultivating Youth People for Tomorrow's Economy, they say young Nigerians must move away from the dependence of white-collar jobs, embrace mentorship, and tap into available potentials in the nation's thriving business sector. Now, as part of ongoing efforts to create opportunities for the youth of Borno State, the government and its partners convened for a validation workshop aimed at refining the implementation strategy for the Borno State Youth Development Plan. The event, which took place in Maiduguri, featured discussions on how the state can better address youth unemployment, educational access, and other critical areas.
Recovering from the years of insurgency, Borno is gradually reclaiming its peaceful status. The youthful population of the state was one of the worst impacted during the insurgency. Youth leaders, government officials, and development partners converged here to discuss the best approaches to empowering the youth and ensuring sustainable development in the region.
In order, if we have deviated in any of the means, there is a work plan that can guide us through to have a kind of development initiative to bridge the gap between the government and the community.
We expect the youth to take up to their responsibilities and build a better Borno State and to change the narrative of Borno State from what we know as a Boko Haram state to a better Borno State.
Drug abuse is increasing day in. So in our own level, as from the Ministry of Women Affairs, we'll go out for massive sensitization to enlighten people.
A major highlight of the discussions was the emphasis on creating job opportunities for young people through vocational training, entrepreneurship, and skill-building programs.
In line with the Borno State 25-year development plan, we want to see how this Borno State development plan that was actually initiated by amazing young people in Borno State and civil society organizations, to see that this plan guides the implementation of development, guides the implementation of several youth activities by the government. So I think what inspired Katai is the project itself, and then also the mission and vision of Katai to also provide access to young people to government agencies.
The action plans is welcome development and is recommendable to the Borno State 25 years development planning, because they are contributing to the part of the 25 years development planning. So it's an welcome development. We thank them very much, and we are cooperating with them.
As the state prepares for the next steps in the plan's implementation, stakeholders remain optimistic that the initiatives discussed will lead to long-term positive outcomes for the youth of Borno State. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Christian faith leaders in Nigeria have called for the training and retraining of ministers so as to equip them with skills bordering on leadership and commitment to help transform the lives of citizens in upholding the dignity of the church. This call was made during the maiden edition of the Young Ministers Conference organized by renowned Nigerian preacher and author David Abioye in the nation's capital, Abuja. Our correspondent Joshua Marai has more.
It was the maiden edition of the Young Ministers Conference which held in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The conference, organized by the renowned Nigerian pastor and teacher David Abioye, had in attendance young and old ministers across the country.
We can't grow without leaders, and we can't grow without people who have gone ahead of us. So we're all gathered to learn from our father Bishop David Abioye. He's had so many years of experience, and it is only logical, spiritual, to impart it into the younger one.
I believe that God has laid in the heart of his servant, Bishop David Abioye, like he said to us, to guide the young ministers. Being in ministry for over 3 decades, I believe by experience and by revelation, God had led him and God had taught him so many things that we, can now glean from. So I believe this is going to mean a lot for us who are young ministers and we're just coming from behind.
Also speaking, the founder of the Transforming Church, who was also present at the conference, expressed optimism that the conference aims at equipping young ministers with leadership traits so that they can impact the church positively.
There's been a lot of, reproach coming to the body of Christ lately, and pretty much so because some of our young ministers have not been properly trained. So this conference, hosted by the Honorable Bishop David Abioye, was designed to ensure that the next generation of ministers are properly trained. And one of the things you can be sure you will see from what we have seen today is that we're going to be seeing a new breed of ministers who are well behaved, who bring honor and glory to Christ and the church.
As the maiden edition of the Young Ministers Conference comes to an end, participants say it leaves behind a strong message of hope and transformation for the future of church in Nigeria. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imalai.
We're going on a short break now, and when we come back, at least 54 bodies recovered, many still missing and unaccounted for in Kogi boat accident. Details when we get back. You're welcome back. Now, at least 54 bodies have been recovered following a boat accident involving around 200 passengers, traders mostly, in Kogi State. The head of operations for the National Emergency Management Agency in Kogi, Justin Uwazuronye, confirmed the grim toll while speaking to journalists on Saturday. He stated that the recovery effort, coordinated by NEMA, the Kogi State Emergency Management Agency, and the Red Cross, had yielded 54 fatalities so far. In response, Kogi State Governor Usman Ododo has called for stronger interagency collaboration to prevent future waterway accidents. The governor urged the authorities to implement stricter measures and also to reduce risks associated with water transportation. Governor Ododo extended his condolences to the families of the victims and pledged government support for the injured as they recover. Now, President Bola Tinubu says Nigerians should reduce dependence on imported foods as a way of ensuring food security. The Director of Extension, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Deola Lodbandru, at the convocation ceremony of Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Umudike, says he is confident Nigeria is capable of producing every of its staple foods. He says the universities of agriculture have a role to play in order to achieve this. Deputy Governor Ikechukwu Emetu and Pro-Chancellor of the University, Fidelis Ede, emphasized the importance of agriculture in the society. Now, energy experts in Nigeria have raised concerns over the implementation of the nation's compressed natural gas policy, calling for a critical assessment. They described the policy as ambitious and lacking legislative backing. Our correspondent Idong Joseph tells us more. Well, we'll bring you that report in subsequent bulletins. Our apologies. Now, News Central's Bettina Nweli has bagged the first runner-up award for the Climate Media Spotlight Award, which held in Abuja. Bettina emerged from a rigorous process with 15 other finalists at the Made in Center for Journalism Innovation and Development Awards, selected from a pool of 388 entries received from 7 countries across West Africa. Ahmadin Uyi tells us more here.
It was the end of a grueling 3-day session organized by the Center for Journalism Innovation and Development. The organizers and participants convened on the nation's capital, Abuja, for this dinner and award night to recognize outstanding journalists, many who have touched the lives of hard-to-reach communities through their reporting.
CJID thought that journalism should be a profession that everybody looks forward to, joining. And for us, we thought that we don't just have to train journalists, we also have to support them. And, the recognition, the dinner event, award event like this, is our own way of showing to everybody that journalism can be profitable.
One of the award recipients was News Central's Bettina Nweli, who bagged the first runner-up prize for the Climate Media Spotlight Award.
I am elated, I am thankful, I am grateful to the support that I received from News Central TV in pushing my career ahead and being a trendsetter.
Bettina and some other recipients were ecstatic, describing their experiences.
For me, it's kind of a motivation to do more. Basically, it's kind of a motivation to do excellent work. I was not doing it for an award, but here it is. So I'm gonna do more.
I'm just feeling fulfilled. I'm very happy, feeling proud about the work that I do. I think this kind of give me a validation that okay, I'm doing something correctly, and this young into my career, I think, and getting this award, I think it's something I'm very proud of, very happy about.
Also on ground to support one of his own was the managing director of News Central Television, Kayode Akintemi.
Oh, I'm so excited, I'm so happy. Bettina is one of our best hands. She just came back from Azerbaijan covering COP29, and she's been in a number of places. She's been covering climate change for a bit, so I'm not surprised at all that she's won this award. I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of the work she's doing. She's repping us well, I believe. She's doing well for News Central.
Akintemi pledged News Central's commitment to raising the bar and transforming the society through excellent reporting and people-oriented stories.
The kind of journalism that we're doing is not the flamboyant one. We're focusing on the people. Our focus is to make sure that we tell the story of people who don't have voices. The voiceless, we serve as their voice. Those who are faceless, we help to highlight their problems and their challenges.
He also assured that News Central will continue to focus on investigative reporting so as to live up to his responsibilities, challenging other media organizations to serve as the fourth estate of the realm. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Well, congratulations there to Bettina Nweli, but bring our award to us. It's all of ours. And now let's go back to that report on the presidential CNG policy and bring you that which we missed from before. Here we go.
The introduction of compressed natural gas as an alternative fuel for transportation has been seen as a cheaper option to the high cost of petrol in Nigeria. However, there are ongoing concerns regarding its safety, accessibility, and affordability, where some experts say that the implementation of the current CNG policy has unrealistic objectives.
In October 12, 2023, when this policy was inaugurated, they set a target of 55,000 CNG-enabled CNG kits to be deployed. 11,500 CNG-enabled vehicles. Where are we? Have they ever been to the National Assembly, to the Committee of Gas and Senate, or have to present a report of how they have operationalized this?
The presidential initiative estimates that we will have 150,000 units of vehicles using CNG by the end of this year. I do not think that we are anywhere near that figure.
While citing examples from countries that have embraced cleaner energy alternatives for a sustainable future, experts say that there is a need for the executive branch of government to engage more with the legislative arm.
It's part of the responsibility of the legislature in the oversight assignment to ensure effective oversight of this sector. 2, enact legislation or amendment 61 to ensure that they are aimed at discouraging unsustainable consumption and production activities.
It is clear that policies centered around energy security, cost-effective transportation, and environmental stewardship must be at the forefront of our legislative agenda as we continue to strive for a future that is economically sound and environmentally sustainable.
The consensus among policy experts here is that it is crucial for the executive to constantly involve the legislature in any policy initiative so as to ensure a sustainable energy future for Nigeria. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Borno State Governor Babagana Umar Zulum has strongly criticized the tax reform bills proposed by President Bola Tinubu's administration, warning they could have devastating effect on the northern region and other parts of the country. The controversial bill, which propose using the location of consumption as the basis for sharing value-added tax, have faced stiff opposition from northern stakeholders, including governors, traditional rulers, and the Northern Elders Forum. Despite the backlash, the Senate advanced the bill to a second reading during a heated plenary session on Thursday. Governor Zulum described the proposed reforms as a looming disaster for the north and parts of the southwest. He cautioned that the changes could leave many states unable to pay workers' salaries, exacerbating hunger, poverty, and insecurity. He called on President Tinubu to reconsider the bills, warning that their implementation would drag the north backwards and negatively impact other regions as well. Now to discuss this, we're joined by tax consultant and fiscal analyst Suraj Oyewale. Mr. Suraj Oyewale, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on a Sunday. I'm going to begin by asking, do you believe that the proposed tax reform bill will affect the economy of northern Nigeria negatively, considering the region's already challenging economic conditions?
Thank you, and nice having me again on your studio. I don't think it should be about region because I think we should I prefer to look at it from the angle of big states versus small states, or more economically buoyant states versus less economically buoyant states. I mean, when we begin to regionalize matters, when we begin to look at matters from a regional angle, it robs off an opportunity for us to look at things more from an objective angle. I'm from northern Nigeria for myself, I'm from the Kwara State, but I think the issue of having to look at everything from regional angle doesn't do us well. I remember during the time of petroleum industry bill, which I played a quite active part in, contributing as a stakeholder in the oil and gas industry at the time. A lot of interest from maybe the South, from even the Northerners, almost denied us the opportunity for us to have some sort of productive debate on it. So the North has its own good, quite buoyant states like the KKK states, Kaduna, even Abuja is in the North. When you talk of the North, you should not forget Abuja, Abuja itself is in the North. If you look at a state like Kaduna, a state like Kano, these are states that have good numbers from an economic standpoint. So the South itself has some good states that are quite relatively viable, the likes of Lagos, the likes of Rivers State, the likes of maybe Delta State, and have its own fair share of states that are struggling based on the economic indices, the likes of Bayelsa, the likes of Ekiti. So I don't think it does us any good to look at all of this from a regional angle, because all parts of Nigeria have their own have states that will struggle from all of this. But having said that, I think that the states that are relatively poorer might be adversely impacted. States like, for example, VAT is one of the the sharing ratio of VAT is one of the things that has been proposed to change in the fiscal reforms in this tax bills. And for example, equality is going to reduce from 50% to I think 20%. What that means is that that base, that threshold for everybody, that portion of the bucket that everybody is entitled to is going to reduce. So this one does not depend on population, it doesn't depend on derivation, and I think that's going to have some effect on the states that, some effect on states that are not exactly, that don't contribute much to the pot.
So where do you stand when it comes to the argument on fiscal federalism and state autonomy? Is this something that's imagined by people who are having this argument, or do you think that it's a real concern?
Not real, because most times when we have some of these things, they drive argument on the independence of states, autonomy of states. I want independence, autonomy of states, or the subnationals. For example, at the moment we have the Lagos State and Rivers State government in court over this VAT matter again. They've been trying to impose their own VAT. As opposed to one that the federal government is imposing, given the fact that VAT is not listed expressly in the exclusive list of the Constitution, which means that the state themselves can legislate on it, the state themselves can impose it, can collect it, and all of these things at the moment. So they've won in the Federal High Court, and we're waiting for what will happen at the Supreme Court when it eventually gets to the Supreme Court. So these are conversations that give that kind of, some flesh to the matters of fiscal federalism and state autonomy. And I think these are heady debates because, for so long we've had a situation in which the subnationals tend to depend so heavily on the federal, and not everybody just gets lazy and nobody wants to do anything. I believe that when all of these are done, it's heady for a fiscally responsible state, because each subnational is now compelled to go out there, get their own resources, because you don't have to be some sort of federating unit that depends too heavily on the central government.
Okay, so let's take this bill apart one by one, especially with this regarding this subject here. The bill prioritizes derivation as an added value, or rather added benefit for sharing value-added tax. So how will the distribution impact northern states, which might not be more or major consumption hubs?
Okay, I don't think the North is not a consumption hub, because fast-moving consumer goods manufacturers tend to do some good numbers in the North. Kaduna, Kano is a good, place of commerce. Kano it is too. We have the Kogi State that have a good number. Ordinarily, consumption should go with population, because if you have a lot of people in the state, that should translate to some form of economic activity. I understand that poverty might be, might moderate that, the effect of that, but I don't think the North, will suffer significantly or at all in the new formula of derivation, because I think the question we should be asking is how will the consumption now be tracked? And as someone that was the tax manager of a company in the oil and gas sector for some years ago, there was a time in which even the Federal Inland Revenue Service, even though that was not, it wasn't something that was central at that time, that was mainstream at that time, required us to, every VAT any company is paying was analyzed by the state of the destination of that, of the service, where the service actually took place, okay? Where the service took place, or where the goods was, where the contract actually, took place at that time. So I don't think it's going to have any significant, if consumption is well tracked, I don't think, it's going to have a significant negative adverse impact on many states of Nigeria. For me personally, I think that reduction in the quality portion from 50% to 20% is where the issue might be, because the increase in the derivation component from 20% to 50%, I don't think it's something that, to 60% rather, I don't think it's something that will have significant effect on the states that are already benefiting from it, but even the states that are not benefiting from it. The question should be how consumption should be tracked, because that will be the bigger problem for me, because sometimes some producers, some traders find it difficult to know exactly the goods they are selling is being consumed. So that will be the bigger picture, and I believe that that can also be surmounted with proper tracking. Maybe sensitization between the companies that sell all of these goods, as well as the the FRS, and I'm sure there will be a way that when the VAT filing is happening, the state of consumption is captured. This will be 100%. There's no system that will give you 100% accuracy on where consumption is happening, but there's a system that can track it to at least 80%. If you have 80%, I mean that's pass mark.
Okay, then. So let's talk about the SMEs, the businesses that would be impacted. The bill introduces a 27.5% company tax rate, which might affect the SMEs. So how will this tax rate impact the growth and also development of SMEs in the North?
Well, I would prefer to see that in Nigeria, because the SMEs in the North and the SMEs in Nigeria are not different. Everybody faces the same economic situation. And so, you're talking about the company income tax here, which it doesn't matter where the company is. They're going to pay the tax. And so, at the moment, you have a situation of the company income tax rate at the moment is 0% if you are a small company. Okay, a small company is defined as a company with an annual turnover of less than 25 million. Okay, then you have the medium companies companies defined as companies earning between from higher than 25 million and lower than 100 million. Okay, those ones are currently being taxed at 20% of their profit, not revenue, please, of their profit, not revenue. Okay, then you have the large companies, which are companies that earn more than 100 million in annual turnover. For those, 30% of their profits, accounting tax profit, not even accounting profit, okay, will be subject to VAT. So you have a graduated rate of 0% for small companies, 25% for medium companies, so 20% for medium companies, and 30% for large companies. Now, this bills is now, one of these bills is now proposing that we're going to have a situation in which companies earning more than 50%, okay, are going to be taxed at 27.5% for the next fiscal year. They subsequently reduce to 25%. Okay, so in a way, the threshold of exemption has been increased from 25 million naira turnover to 50 million naira turnover. Okay, so if you are earning less than 50 million naira turnover now, based on this proposal, you will not be subject to income tax. That's a positive, and of course, so what that means is that there are still some medium-scale companies that are still caught up in that positive expansion in the in the threshold for exemption. Okay, formerly 25 million was the threshold. Now 50 million was the threshold. Now the tricky part is now that companies earning, let's say, 51 to 99 million as turnover in a year in the current regime are subject to tax on their profits at 20%. Those categories will no longer be recognized as at 20%. Those ones move to 27.5%. Not exactly a fair situation to be, but so we have some people dropping to 0%, people less than 100 million, less than 50 million, and you have some people dropping from 20% to 27.5%. Okay, sorry, having their own tax rate increasing from 20% to 27.5%. That's for companies earning between more than 50 million or less than 100 million. For those earning more than 100 million, that situation is going to get better because their threshold is going to move from 30% rate to 27.5%. So I don't think, for SMEs, so some will benefit, some that are maybe, that are making 100 million, less than 50 million turnover per annum are going to benefit because they're not going to be exempted from income tax. Those earning more than that are going to have some sort of, they're going to take some hit. And that's how it happens for most reforms.
Well, Suraj, I want to say thank you very much for giving us all that calculation and expert opinion. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Coming up, opposition leader rejects Namibian election results. Details coming up after the break. Welcome back. Now, Namibia's leading opposition presidential candidate, Penduleni Itula, has announced that his party will not recognize the result of the country's controversially extended election. Speaking on Saturday, just before polls closed on the final day of voting, Itula, leader of the Independent Patriots for Change, accused the process of being marred by chaos and alleged foul play. He noted that regardless of the outcome, the IPC shall not recognize the result of the election. He further stated that his party would pursue legal avenues to nullify the election, urging President Nangolo Mbumba to convene an emergency cabinet meeting to address the situation. The election marks a critical juncture as the IPC seeks to challenge the 34-year rule of the Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO.
Irregularities that has been reported by our legitimately registered representatives in various of the polling stations, we as IPC and the IPC leadership have reached an unshakable principled decision to make a statement to the press and to the nation at large that we are people that believes in the rule of law and we are principled in that regard. The IPC will not and shall not recognize the outcome of these elections, whether this outcome signals a win for the presidential candidate of the IPC, whether a win for the parliamentary seats of the IPC, whether they suggest a runoff because of the outcome. Unfortunately, we cannot allow a situation of this nature to take precedence because it can get worse next time. As IPC, we stand firm in our resolve to fight alongside other political parties that feel the same and are able to travel on the same vehicle to nullify the elections through the processes that are established within our electoral process to ensure that the Namibian people will once again be given an opportunity in order to exercise their democratic.
Ivory Coast's former First Lady Simone Gbagbo has officially declared her candidacy for the country's 2025 presidential election. Known as the Iron Lady, Gbagbo made the announcement on Saturday during her political movement's inaugural convention in Moussou, near the economic hub of Abidjan. Now, Gbagbo, the ex-wife of former President Laurent Gbagbo, vowed to lead the nation toward a brighter future, pledging to build a stronger and more prosperous Ivory Coast. In her address, she stated that she decided to run in the October 2025 presidential election because she firmly believes that every Ivorian, regardless of their circumstances, has the potential to overcome adversity, to dream, to create, to build, and to succeed. Simone Gbagbo's announcement marks a significant development in the country's political landscape as she steps into the spotlight with ambitions of leading the West African nation. France has initiated the return of approximately 3,500 archaeological artifacts to Ethiopia, held in Paris since the 1980s for research purposes. During a ceremony at the National Museum in Addis Ababa on Saturday, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot handed over 3 prehistoric tools, a pair of stone axes known as bifaces, and a stone cutter to Ethiopian Tourism Minister Salemwit Kassa. The artifacts are part of a collection excavated from the Melka Kontur site, a cluster of prehistoric locations south of Addis Ababa, under the direction of a late French researcher. Barrot emphasized the tools' significance, noting they represent just a portion of the artifacts being returned. France and Ethiopia share a long-standing partnership in archaeological and also paleontology. The remaining items currently housed at the French Embassy in Addis Ababa are expected to be formally transferred to Ethiopia's Heritage Directorate on Tuesday. Romanians returned to the polls on Sunday to elect a new parliament, with the far right poised to make significant gains. The outcome could signal a potential shift in the foreign policy of the NATO member nation, which shares a border with war-torn Ukraine. This parliamentary vote follows political upheaval triggered by a top court's order for a recount in the first round of the presidential election held on November 24. That contest was won by Călin Georgescu, a relatively unknown far-right figure and vocal admirer of Russian President Vladimir Putin. A runoff for the presidency is scheduled for December 8. Despite allegations of Russian influence and claims of election interference through TikTok, voting for the parliamentary elections proceeded as planned. Polling stations opened at 7 a.m. local time and will close at 9 p.m. with exit polls expected shortly after. The first official results are anticipated later in the evening as the nation watches closely for indications of its political and foreign policy trajectory.
Duminica trecută, poporul român a vorbit. Cei care nu au ascultat vocea poporului român și încearcă să repete alegerile ca să iasă cum vor ei, cei care încearcă să folosească Curtea Constituțională în favoarea lor, să se potolească. Trebuie să
Now, sports. Nigeria claimed 2 bronze medals at the just concluded 11th Commonwealth Karate Championship in Durban, South Africa. Rita Ogene earned bronze in the women's 68-kilogram category, while Israel Jegede secured bronze in the men's 84-kilogram division. 5 athletes represented Team Nigeria, supported by 2 coaches, an accompanying referee, a board member, and the Secretary General. This strong showing underscores the nation's growing dedication to karate and its potential to shine on the international stage. Now, Montpellier Women's Football Club forward Ifeoma Onomunu, her 54+3-minute goal was not enough to stop Nigeria from losing 2-1 to France in the international friendly match played Saturday night at Stade Roman-Kopa in Angers in western France. The Les Bleus raced to what looked like an early lead in the 7th minute of the highly entertaining game when striker Marie-Antoinette Katoto beats Chiamaka Nnadozie in goal at close range. But video assistance referee, that's VAR, ruled the goal offside. France was not to be denied again when veteran goal scorer Eugene Le Sommer scored the 28th minute, while another France senior player, Amel Martry, scored in the 37th minutes to make the 2-0 against Nigeria. However, forward Onumonu scored a brilliant goal at the dot of the 3 added minutes on the first half to bring the scoreline to 2-1 at the interval. On resumption, France pressed hard to score more goals, but a resilient Nigerian team whose game plan was not to lose against France following 3 earlier defeats. Although France maintained her superiority over Nigeria in 4 matches with 4 victories, Omonunu's consolatory goal was also the first goal Nigeria would score against France's senior women's team. And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take a look at some of these stories we brought your way. Atiku Peter Obi denied joint tickets talks ahead of 2027 presidential elections. And at least 54 bodies recovered after boat accident involving 200 traders in Kogi State. We also told you Namibian opposition leader accuses the electoral process of being marred by chaos and alleged foul play. And that's all the news. Do remember you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Apio.